Hi, everybody. Okay. So this is my third entry, and technically, ouch, I was out at the lake running with my dog. There's my dog. Hi, Air's dog. You sweet boy. You sweet boy. Say hi to everybody. Yeah, he's so cute. Love you. Anyways, he couldn't hang. We ran maybe a mile, and he was struggling. So we walked back to the car very slowly. There he is. You're such a sweet boy. Yeah, no more kisses. I like it when you lick me. But we're back home, and we got some water, and we cleaned the apartment, and we did a journal entry, and I realized that I should probably read my second entry. I've only read one entry, so this will be my third little podcast thing, whatever this is called. The first one was an introduction. The second was chapter 1, the beginning of my journey to self-love and redemption. And then this is chapter 2. So just a quick reminder where we left off. The last entry was kind of about the chip on my shoulder. Kind of where it started. I was a freshman in high school, and we just upped and moved to Antlers, Oklahoma, my grandpa's house. Well, actually, I don't think I mentioned that it was Antlers. Chapter 2 tells you that we moved to Antlers, Oklahoma. So raise your hand if you know where Antlers is. Unfortunately, I do. Yay! No, okay. I probably shouldn't talk crappy about a place where people do live. My grandfather was born and raised there. He will die there. And he's a great man. I've, met many people from Antlers. But Antlers itself is not the best place. Good people can come from Antlers, but the town is garbage. Okay? There's really no reason to stay there unless you're old and don't want to live in the city, or if you just like a small town, you don't. Okay, I'm just going to stop talking about Antlers because I can't. I'm done. So anyways, chapter 2, Antlers, Oklahoma. Who knew that place exists? Notoriously known as the black hole of any sort of success. Very few make it out, and anyone who wants to break the chains of bondage over their life must make an effort to leave. Most leave by means of college. But here, I was a freshman in high school, being sucked into this black hole against my will and not for anything I did. I literally had no classes to take in that small town school. I was already in Calculus 2 as a freshman in high school. I was almost fluent in French, if not actually fluent. I literally had only English to take that was worth my time. I literally was going to school to become less intelligent. And with each passing day, I was getting more and more bitter and angry about it. Being from Dallas in a small town was a curse. It was our scarlet letter. Small town folks are not particularly kind to outsiders. I watched my mother every day try to get a job and no one hire her. She would wash poop from dog kennels. She would clean toilets. She would do the lowliest job of all the lowliest jobs just to have some kind of income. My father was in a deep depression, and I don't blame him for for being in a depression at that time. So he barely tried for a little while. My poor sister was bullied so much at school that she skipped out of school for a whole year. I'm hard-headed and stubborn, and I went to school anyway, even though everyone acted like they hated me and my family. But I was in a lot of fights. And I had to get a job to pass time, but also I had to get a job to help my family pay for utilities and for food. We were blessed because we got to stay at my grandpa's house rent-free because he was in Colorado working. So he told us we could live there until my dad got back up on his feet and got our family back to Texas. But yep, I was 14 years old, and the only one with a steady job in a family of 4. At 14, I learned so much more about being an adult than I really wanted to. But God gave me the strength to see that I have got to get out of here as soon as possible. But where do I go? What do I do? I can't drive. I can't live on my own. I'm too young. But God had a plan. He sent me an angel. That angel's name is LaWanda Vaughn. She might watch this video. I'm not sure. I think we're friends on Facebook. But she was the principal at Moyers. Yeah, it's spelled M-O-Y-E-R-S. So like the average individual would say Moyers. But no. Small town folks say Moyers. It's Moyers. She was the principal at Moyers High School. And, here's a funny story. So I started out at Antlers High School, but I got in like a lot of fights. And I remember I got sent to the principal's office because I was in a fight. And the principal told me that my penalty for fighting was for me to have to get the paddle. Yeah, the paddle. I did not misspeak. You did not mishear. 100%, I was supposed to get paddled. So the principal told me that, and I looked at him and I said, first off, I know you don't have my parents' permission to paddle me because my father would never let anybody paddle me. He doesn't even spank me himself, especially not with a paddle. And secondly, if you hit me with that, I'm just going to turn around, take it from you. I'm going to hit you back. So what funnier side of that story is, I think the principal's name at Antlers was Vernon. Last name was Vernon or something like that. Principal Vernon. He calls my dad and he was like, you're right, we don't have permission to paddle you, so I need to ask your dad. So he calls my dad. My dad's like, y'all still paddle? Like, he laughed on the phone. It was hilarious. And he was like, well, you don't have my permission, and if you do try to paddle Shauna, she'll probably hit you with it. So the exact thing I told Principal Vernon, my dad told him, like verbatim. It was absolutely hilarious. So that just kind of tells you that when my family was like seriously on the same page about punishment. Trust me, I got spanked. But I only needed to get spanked like once or twice to realize that I never wanted that to happen again, so done. My sister, spanking didn't work at all. If you took her toys away from her, it was the end of the world. So my parents figured that out. They're like, well, Jennifer's going to keep doing what she wants if we spank her, but if we take her toys away, that's what we got to do. So anyways, there's that story. So I ended up going to Moyers because I got in so many fights, and that was the closest town to Antlers. Antlers was the big town. So anyways, LaWanda Vaughn, principal at Moyers, she also happened to go to my church that we started going to there. I forgot what it was called. She approached me and she asked me if I'd ever heard of OSSM, which stands for Oklahoma School of Science and Mathematics. I told her I hadn't, but I had assumed it was similar to the Texas Academy of Math and Science, which I had planned to apply to when we lived in Texas. But it's a boarding school for gifted students who excel in math and science. Duh. That's why it's called the Oklahoma School of Science and Mathematics. But in order for me to go there, I had to take some IQ tests, placement tests, a math placement test, and and a standardized test called ACT. Long story short, where I came from in Texas, we didn't do the ACT. We did the SAT. When I took the SAT, the highest score you could possibly get on it was a 1600. Little Miss Smarty Pants here got a 1550 in junior high. So I submitted that score along with my IQ test and all that stuff. And they were like, yeah, no, we can't take an SAT. I'm like, this is flipping perfect, like practically perfect. What are y'all looking for? so I've taken ACT. I've never even heard of an ACT. So, like the next weekend after they told me that that wasn't acceptable, I went and took an ACT. Never seen one in my life. Didn't know what was on it. No clue whatsoever, and got a 28. I've heard that that's a pretty decent score. But just so you know, to get into the Oklahoma School of Science Mathematics, I basically was the stupidest one who applied based off that ACT score. So, but anyways, after all the other standardized tests, turning in my SAT and my ACT score, I was awarded an interview for one of 72 spots. I later found out that over 500 students applied. And I sat in front of a board of 3 people, and they asked me straight up, why should we let you in? You have the lowest ACT score amongst all the other applicants and your peers. Mind you, oh wait, I already said all this stuff about the ACT. I didn't know about it, whatever. So, this was my response to them. I said, well, I took the ACT blind, but as you can see, I have almost a perfect SAT score. Obviously, I did extremely well on all of my placement exams. Otherwise, I would not be here. But outside of the tangible facts that there are a few intangibles that you need to be aware of when making your decision. I told them about how I was ripped from a healthy situation and now live in a place where there is no continuing education for me. I am the only one supporting my family of 4 for the most part. And this is a burden that I don't feel I should have to bear. Basically, if you don't accept me because of a lower than average ACT score, I will surely die in more ways than one. This school might actually save my life. I gave them more details, and by the end of the interview, I had the 2 female interviewers crying in tears, and I was in tears too because I was just pouring out my heart to them and letting them know this is about more than just my education. This is truly about my life. But there is a happy ending. A month later, after that interview, I got my acceptance packet. And now I just had to worry about how I was going to get there. We didn't have dependable transportation, my family. But the next chapter, we'll talk about how I got there. And all the amazing people God sent in my life to help me get there and help me make it through those 2 years, because it was a 2-year school. So that's chapter 2, Antlers, Oklahoma. Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys. Y'all have a good night.